Hi, my name is Drew Updegraff, and I am doing a speech on the history of commercial aviation. And here is my audience. Say hi, audience. So, the start of commercial aviation. First flight was January 1st, 1914, carrying one passenger from St. Petersburg to Tampa, Florida. The guy paid $400 at an auction for the ticket. And you can see, I don't know if you can see in the picture, but this plane is very old. It's similar to the Orville and Wilbur Wright plane that they had. So it started out carrying mail and animals. So the first flight for that was May 15, 1918. This was the U.S. airmail. So it started out carrying mail connected between New York, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. It was basically so you didn't have to drive the mail between these cities. You can actually fly it on a plane now. It really revolutionized the mail industry. Let's see. So the first commercial airline was formed May 17, 1920. This is KLM. They're a Dutch airline, and they were they were formed out of Amsterdam, and they're the oldest airline in the world at 95 years old. United Airlines claims that they're the oldest, but in fact, these guys, KLM is the oldest. United is the oldest in American airline. So what really revolutionized commercial aviation was the formation of the jet engine, or the invention of the jet engine. The first to fly it was the de Havilland Comet. It was pretty unsuccessful. They had a lot of engine trouble. They had a lot of like fires and all kinds of stuff. So there was no crashes involving passengers with this. It was just the testing. But the one that really revolutionized the jet engine and jet engine aircraft was the Boeing 707. And that their first flight was in 1958, and they were flying up until about 20 years ago. So it was a very good airplane, and it really revolutionized the commercial jets, and other companies formed to create more planes with jet engines because of this plane and its success. Then the Concorde supersonic jet came, and that came in 1969. October 1st, 1969 was his first successful flight. But the actual flight ran from London to New York, and that was in under 3.5 hours, which now it takes about 7.5 to 8 hours in the planes that they take now, and that's because they take cargo, and there's a lot of passengers. These planes didn't seat but maybe 75 passengers, and the whole plane was first class. It was a very comfortable jet. It was very, very, very expensive though. It was mostly businessmen and women going from New York to Paris and New York to London. Those were its first inaugural flights, and that was basically what they flew, like the route they flew. But like I said, it could go New York to London in under 3.5 hours. But the last flight it took was October 24, 2003. They decided to discontinue the jet after the 2000 crash of the Concorde. It was an Air France plane that it just completely, it was a horrific crash. There was no survivors, and it was just a terrible, terrible, terrible crash. So for that reason, mainly they canceled the or they discontinued service of the Concorde, so that no longer flies. But you can go around to different places and different airports. They'll have on display Concorde jets, and they're really, really cool to see. It's a really, really cool plane. So, but that flight that crashes between New York City and Paris was flying from Paris to New York City. It was a very, very bad crash. So after this September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks, the formation of the TSA, was introduced, the creation of the TSA. It was signed into effect by George Bush on November 19, 2001. It was the Aviation and Transportation Security Act. Basically, the great people of the TSA today, sarcastic, but great people of the TSA today, they monitor any passengers going through the airport. So everyone has to be screened by TSA, their bags, their belongings, everything has to be screened before they can actually enter into the sterile area, which is past security. But that was formed because of the 2001 terrorist attacks, because the terrorists brought in box cutters and different things. So that was the reason they set up x-ray machines and all different checkpoints and stuff before you can come in. It used to be you could go and actually walk right up to the gate and see your family off if they were flying, but now it's no longer because of this. So it has its good things and its bad things. But and then most recently, the Airbus A380 was introduced January 18, 2005. It's the largest commercial aircraft. Seats about 850 passengers. Different airlines configure their planes different. So most of the American airlines that own this, actually United Airlines is the only one that owns this, but only American airline that owns this. But they configure it to kind of squish everybody in, whereas the luxury carriers of the Middle East and Europe, they'll try to expand or have more seating, or they will try to accommodate people better. There will be less seating, there will be more space, whereas the American owned airlines that operate this plane, they'll configure it to have about 500 passengers capacity, whereas the European and the Middle Eastern carriers will have about 300. They have lie flat seats, and it's just it's like a cruise ship. It's a really beautiful plane. I flew on it from New York to Frankfurt, Germany, and it was a beautiful, beautiful plane. I hope you've enjoyed my speech on the history of commercial aviation. This industry is constantly growing. I don't think that it'll ever die down. It'll just keep improving. And if you're interested for yourself, ticket fares are at a record low right now. So I would suggest jumping on a plane, even if it's for going to New York City for the day. It's very cheap and it's a great experience. All right, thank you.